Hi, welcome to Think Human. I'm Chris, and in this video I want to talk about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is this interesting psychological idea that holding essentially two opposite opposing ideas in our heads. A traditional best way to explain what is cognitive dissonance is by the story of the fox, and I'm butchering parts of it, but the essence of it remains the same. So there is this fox, and this fox goes to an apple tree. And the fox is like, wow, this is wonderful, beautiful, juicy apples. I sure want me some apples. And then the fox gets closer to the tree, tries to reach up, and he's like, whoa, the apples are way too far. And then he gets thinking for a moment. And then he tries to take a stick and reach for the apples. He still can't get the apples. He's been there for like an hour and getting kind of frustrated. And then the fox is like, well, fuck the apples. I don't even want the apples. Those apples are probably not even good. I didn't want the apples in the first place. I'll go eat something even better. And this is how the fox resolves its cognitive dissonance. And this is the thought that the fox has two opposing ideas in his head. Like the fox wants the apples, but since the fox can't get the apples, he says he resolves the cognitive dissonance by saying, oh, I don't want those apples anyway. The cognitive dissonance part is that he wants the apples, but he can't get the apples. So what can you possibly do? It's these kind of ideas where they are contradictory ideas, and in real world there are quite many examples of cognitive dissonance that we need to deal with. An example would be caring for the environment and wanting the environment to actually do well, but driving a truck that is not good for the environment. So there is this cognitive dissonance, like there is two opposing ideas. You want the environment to be better, but you're driving a truck that is bad for the environment. So what do? The fox resolved this cognitive dissonance by saying, to hell with the apples, I don't really want them anyway. What will the driver do? The driver can either think, oh, the environment will be fine, like one more car won't do much, or the driver can be like, oh, I will change my car to a better car. It's the idea of when you're smoking and you know that smoking is bad and yet you like smoking. That is cognitive dissonance, and that is the type of cognitive dissonance that can last for a long time with people. I've known so many people who actually hate smoking, but they're smoking because it's an addiction and they're so used to it. Eventually, someday, people can resolve this cognitive dissonance by either quitting or changing to a smokeless tobacco or whatever it might be. Another example would be a person who thinks that lying is really bad, never wants to lie, but is forced to lie in some situation. And the important thing is, how do we handle these situations? And it's important to recognize when are we faced with cognitive dissonance, these times where we have two opposing ideas in our heads. I think the most foolish reaction, but the best, easiest, ignorant reaction is the fox reaction. The fox reaction was that I don't want apples anyway. Who cares? I'll get some better apples. And you see this so much in everyday life when people want something, they can't get it, and then they're like, oh, well, I don't want it anyway. It wasn't so good anyway. People resolving their cognitive dissonance in this kind of way. But I think we should be more mature about it and be aware of it. Like the fox trying to get the apples for an hour, then getting frustrated, starting walking away. What if the wind came or something and knocked a couple of apples down from the tree, juicy red apples, and then the fox turned around and were like, damn, those apples, I really, really want them. And then he runs to the apples and starts eating them. What happened with the cognitive dissonance? It totally melted away. But what the side effect is that the fox probably feels like a fool, since a moment ago the fox said, I don't want the apples anyway. And yet, when the apples were available, he was like, yeah, give me. And this is a stupid thing, and this is kind of a thing that destroys your integrity as an intellectual creature, to not do these kind of things too hastily, because if you go around and relieving your cognitive dissonance in these kind of foolish ways, later you don't have so much credit. You kind of lose this sort of reasonable part of you that actually thinks critically about the world, like what really is true. Like, I really do want the apples, but I can't get them at the moment. It doesn't mean the apples are bad. I know the apples are good, but I can't get them at the moment. Maybe I can figure out some way to get the apples later. Maybe I can work something out. Maybe if I be more patient, something like that. This would be a way to approach cognitive dissonance in a more reasonable way. So this is just some thoughts about cognitive dissonance. It's a really interesting thing that we experience quite often in human lives, and we need to know how to deal with them. Same thing with scientific concepts. It's important to be able to handle cognitive dissonance because it's a large part of thinking deeply from the world. These dissonances just emerge pretty much everywhere the more you think about the world. So I hope this was insightful in at least some ways and you got some thoughts from this. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and take care.